In this video, I'm going to show you how to run Oswatcher. So we go to the directory where Oswatcher was installed, list the contents of the directory, and we can see a file here, an executable file, a shell script, by the name of start oswbb.sh. Now this is the file that we use to start Oswatcher. So all we have to do is run this file. And this file takes a set of optional arguments. We can just run it with no arguments, in which case it's going to accept the default, which are the Oracle best practice, what we recommend that you run Oswatcher with. This first parameter is the number of seconds between snapshot intervals, and again, our recommendation is to take snapshots every 30 seconds. You probably don't want to go beyond 1 minute, because then you start losing granularity. But you could take snapshots even more frequent. You could do it every 10 seconds, every 5 seconds. Basically, you want to take snapshots in an interval that will give you look back capability, but not so much data that you start to fill up your disk. So our recommendation is every 30 seconds. The second parameter is the number of hours to keep in the archive. Now our recommendation is to keep the last 2 days worth of data, or 48 hours worth of data. But this again is configurable. If you wanted to keep, for example, 1 week's worth of data, you could say have parameter 2 be 168 hours for the last 7 days worth of data. The third parameter that we can pass to Oswatcher Black Box is the name of a compression utility that we want Oswatcher Black Box to use when it runs to compress the files. So we could give it an optional parameter here with our utility that we want it to use to do compression. Now we need not enter any information here. We can just start Oswatcher with no parameters, in which case it will take the default. So I'm going to go on and kick it off now. Okay, I'm going to show you in a second window while it's actually running what it's doing, so it doesn't scroll around when we're trying to look at it. So here we can see we've started Oswatcher Black Box, and we did not pass arguments into it, so it's going to take the default. So it's telling us here we didn't pass an argument for snapshot intervals, so it's going to use the default value of 30. We did not pass a value for archive interval, so it's going to use the default value of 48. And it's going to store this information in the default location, which is the archive subdirectory under where Oswatcher Black Box was installed. But you'll remember from the configuration presentation that this is configurable. We could have alternatively specified to a Unix shell variable where we want Oswatcher Black Box to store the information. It need not be here in the default location. The second thing that happens when it starts is Oswatcher is going to look for the underlying Unix utilities. So it's going to go out and look and see if it can find these underlying Unix utilities like vmstat, iostat, mpstat, netstat, and top. If it can find the utilities and you've got permission to run them, or Oswatcher Black Box has permission to run them, it will collect the data around these utilities. If it cannot find the utility, or you lack the permission to run it, then you'll get a message here that unfortunately it's not going to be able to collect, for example, vmstat information. Okay, the next thing it does on startup is it starts to look for the number of CPUs on your system, and it issues a very operating system specific command to find the number of CPUs on your system. In this case, you can see, because I'm running on a very old test system, I've only got 1 CPU. Now this is important because the analyzer is going to use the number of CPUs to make accurate determinations of run queue, and we'll get into that in later discussions. Okay, so then we see after that we see some information here about the tools actually starting with the snapshot interval of 30 and archive interval of 48. Then I put my name and email here, because if you have issues with Oswatcher Black Box, or have questions or even enhancement requests, I want you to contact me directly. Please do not open up an SR to support for any issues around OS Watch or Black Box, but contact me directly. Okay. After that, we see that it starts actually collecting data with this heartbeat information here, and I'll show you in the next screen. Here we can see this was the other screen where we started from. So you can see now it's actually collecting data. We can see that the data is being collected, and that these are the snapshot intervals. Okay. So this program now will run in an infinite loop. It will run until you stop it, because we always want it running in the background. So if you have a performance problem, if you have a node eviction at 2 o'clock in the morning, we can go back in time and see what's going on the operating system. So I've showed you how to start it manually. There are other ways to start it. For example, you could start it as part of a cron tab. You could put it in your Unix startup file to have it start when the system reboots. And there's collateral here on my Oracle support with different node numbers to tell you some of the different options if you want to try to start OS Watcher. If, for example, you're running Linux, there's an RPM package that you can use. Okay, now these are the various ways you can start OS Watcher. In the next video, I'll show you how to stop it.